Alrighty, let's get into it, shall we? Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Friday night live stream for Week 5 of the 2024 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour plus, we're answering any and all questions in regards to fantasy football, whether it is a trade question, start or sit, potentially a waiver pickup question. Because again, I talked about it earlier today in regards to our hidden gems video. Players like Trey Sermon, Josh Downs, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, with the news that was just released, I would say maybe an hour or two ago. A lot of information. Tyrone Tracy, the thumbnail of the video. There's a lot of options that we could potentially go to in order to give our team a little bit of value. Obviously, there's a lot of players that are missing, whether it's via injury or due to the bye week. So we're still trying to scramble. But again, try to answer as many questions as possible. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to just start out by answering questions that were preloaded in the chat before I even got here. I see that there's a couple super chats. We'll get to those in a moment. Just want to knock out a couple questions quick and easy. And then, of course, we'll get into answering the super chat sent in questions. Again, if you do send in a question via super chat, they take priority. But a reminder, include your scoring format. Greatly appreciate that. And also make sure that the message is attached. If it doesn't get attached, I'll have to go looking for it, which is not a problem, but it may take a little bit longer to get that response in your direction. Onage was in the chat and is always in the chat, first and foremost. So Onage, let's answer this question, shall we? It says, I have Evans, Debo, BTJ. Need to drop one of the following: Quentin Johnston, Wan'Dale Robinson, or Khalil Shakir. If I'm dropping one of those potential options, I'm probably dropping Quentin Johnston out of the three. Khalil Shakir and Wan'Dale Robinson just have more of a target opportunity share. Well, Quentin Johnston could get better over time, but he's very much so touchdown dependent as it currently stands in comparison to the other two. So I would drop Quentin Johnston. And the fact that he's on bye week actually helps. But if you can, maybe move Khalil Shakir to your IR spot and then function it accordingly after that. But outside of that, thank you very much, Onage. Let's see here. Chris Webster in the live chat was saying, traded Scary Terry for Ramondre. Is that a terrible trade? After the news that released, it's not that. Okay, so here's the thing. Ramondre Stevenson is going to be the quote-unquote backup, right? But how much of a loss of overall share is he going to have? Time will tell. Obviously, we'll be able to determine that after the overall events of this upcoming Sunday's game against the Miami Dolphins. But ultimately, it may have been a terrible trade. It may, in fact, have been. I mean, over the course of this week, I've been saying I want to wait until Ramondre has a pretty good performance against Miami, and then I'm shipping him next week. But I think our timeline has to move up. So, the timeline of trading away Ramondre is pretty much over now. And you can hope that he has a solid performance here and then maybe ship him next week. The time for trading for a player like Najee is right now, literally week 5. Typically, like I've said in the past, you typically want to trade for Najee Harris in week 6 or 7. I mentioned it in the offseason, and I'll mention it, for the continuous time. Every year around the week 6 or 7 for the last 2 seasons, Najee, his overall production in terms of fantasy points per game, jumps up 6 or 5 or 6 points per game on average. So this is the time span, especially with Cordero Patterson going down with injury and the PCL injury to Jalen Warren. This is the time, if any, to get Najee Harris. Okay, so then Eric Holm was in the live chat and he said, in a 12-team full PPR, my team is Kyler Laporta, Conklin, Brees, Jordan Mason, Warren, Irving, Wright, Allen, Marvin Harrison, Devontae Smith, Jameson Williams, Deontay Johnson, Ladd McConkey, BTJ. Any trade suggestions or hold? I mean, look, at this point, you really don't want to move your tight end. Brees, Mason are pretty solid. The rest of your running backs are just kind of fodder at this point. So if they end up being moved in a trade, so be it. But I guess out of all those available running backs that you have secondary, you would want to keep Irving because at least he gets a pretty good share of workload. Marvis Harrison stays, Devontae Smith stays, Deontay Johnson. I mean, look, if you're going to trade anyone, it could be Deontay Johnson because you can hold Marvin Harrison, BTJ, Devontae Smith the rest of the season. So you could take Deontay Johnson along with a potential take Bucky Irving and then go get a running back in exchange for it. That's definitely within the realm of possibility if I was to try to make a move. Josh Jacobs is the first name that comes to mind as to who I'm going to try to get now before it's too late. If we move on, we had a question that came in from, let's see here. Esteban in the live chat says, half PPR Waddle or Wan'Dale Robinson? Wan'Dale Robinson for sure, especially with neighbors out. That would be the suggestion. Michael De La Torre sends in the live chat was saying BTJ or Wicks. For this week, I'll go with Wicks, especially with the confirmation that there's no Romeo Dobbs this week. I'm feeling pretty strong about that. And then Nicholas had said in the chat, Cortland Sutton or Josh Downs. Under the assumption that Flacco starts, Josh Downs would take the starting position there. Now, in regards to when those players end up suiting up, let's see, week 5 NFL. I'm curious when they are suiting up on Sunday. Perhaps it's in the same window. Okay, so they play in different windows. So technically, the Broncos play in the afternoon, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but the Colts game is in the morning, starting at 10 a.m. against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we will know prior to, like on Sunday morning, we'll know who's the starting quarterback, and at that point, you can choose to play, Downs ahead of Sutton. So there's not really any sort of you need a pivoting option or anything like that. Okay. Just wanted to take care of those early questions that were sent in. Appreciate y'all coming through early within the live chat. Let's get into answering some of these super chats. Appreciate y'all being here. Again, if you guys haven't yet already, do me a favor, click the like button down below. Also, if you guys haven't checked out today's Hidden Gems video, there's a lot of potential options there. I also went ahead and put together a couple pick'em slips in regards to that. Obviously, yesterday's pick'em slips, the 2 legs hit. We're just waiting for Derrick Henry to score a touchdown. And then, of course, we had a couple that were suggested today. We'll probably go ahead and put the stuff together as this stream goes on once someone asks for it. But outside of that, let's get into answering questions. Old J Running sends in a question. Says, Friday night with Andrew. Life is good. Rest of season PPR. Drop Nick Chubb for Chase, as in Chase Brown, I would assume. Drop Ayuk for Shaheed or Jennings. You rock. Cheers. I'm not going to drop Ayuk. I would... If I was in your position and you need the wide receiver depth, I'd be willing to drop Chubb for Shaheed, to be honest, at this point. But as for Chubb for Chase, I'm okay with that. If you cannot put Nick Chubb in your IR spot, per se, I don't mind it. But look, here's the thing. I only like Chase because I assume he's going to eventually be the starter. I can't say the same thing that like Nick Chubb is going to be going to be in a position where he is the far and away RB1 with no implementation of Ford. And I don't think we can also say the same thing about Chase being able to function within the backfield without Zach Moss. So both of them are kind of a toss-up. If you were going to pick one of the two, I mean, again, I think that the offense for the Bengals is better set up for the future in comparison to the Cleveland Browns, which again, running the ball is not going to really be a commonality of their game scripts going forward, considering how bad they've played on both sides of the football. So I don't mind the Chase swap, but I'd keep Ayuk. Unless you had another available spot, then you try to get Shaheed somewhere else. Carlos Perez sends in a question. Says, in a 10-team full PPR Dynasty League, send a late 2025 first and a third for Jonathan Brooks. Can afford to sit him all year if needed. Yeah, that's cool. I don't have an issue with that. That I have no problem with at all. Again, you got to remember, I mean, next year, Chuba Hubbard is probably not going to be a part of that team. If you just look at it at a contract standpoint, like he's going to be out of his rookie contract. There are going to be many of suitors considering how well Chuba has played over the course of his career as a Carolina Panther. And the Carolina Panthers still owe a lot of money and have a lot of money on the books with Miles Sanders. So he is not an easy cut. So they're going to keep Miles Sanders going into the future. And of course, Jonathan Brooks will be their RB1 starting next year, which you can get get right now at a relatively discounted price based on the fact that we haven't seen him play thus far this season. Yours truly sent in a question. There wasn't anything attached, but let me go back into the live chat and see if it is in fact in here. I would assume. Let's see here. Yours truly. Okay, yours truly. Do me a favor. If you had potentially typed it in and then the live chat had updated, I would assume that that's why it's not there. Just do me a favor and just type it in the chat. I appreciate it. Just copy paste it. Spencer P, same thing. I don't know if your message is in the chat. I'll check it in a moment. But if you haven't, or if it's not in there, just type it again or copy paste it. Thank you. Let's see here. Bonk sends in a question. Says half PPR play one, drop one. Trey Sermon and Mostert. I mean, again, I'm not going to play Mostert this week in comparison to Trey Sermon. So if that means dropping Mostert, then I'm dropping Mostert. Justin sends in a question. Says PPR Godwin to get Devontae Adams. I have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers, I think, is irrelevant to me. If we think that he's going to the Jets and you're willing to take the risk, I mean, again, the two most, I guess, favored teams theoretically would be New Orleans or the New York Jets getting him. Regardless of where he goes, the guy's going to get 10 targets per game, we would assume, based on the quarterback connection that he already has there. So as of right now, I don't mind the trade at all. Moving on to the question from So Ziggy, who says, rest of season, who to keep? Jaden Reed, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Legette, Brian Thomas Jr., Zay Flowers, Wandale Robinson, Jordan Flower. I mean, look, I think there are a couple players here, just a couple, that I think are like you want to keep for the remainder of the season. You don't want to ship. Those players would be Jaden Reed and Brian Thomas Jr. I think everybody else is up for sale. Again, I'm always looking to try to trade my players if I can find something of more value. So theoretically, I would be willing to part ways with a Brian Thomas Jr. or a Jaden Reed. But considering how well they have already played thus far and my expectations in terms of their rest of the season value, I would like to keep them if possible and ship the rest. You don't have to ship the rest, but again, you would look to wait for a big performance from Zay Flowers or Garrett Wilson or Legette, Wandale Robinson maybe this week with another big performance in the absence of Neighbors, and then maybe move on from them. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Let me see if yours truly and Spencer P has sent in questions. So let's check this out. Okay, nothing from yours truly yet. Maybe I need to update my live stream. Nope, nothing there. How about Spencer? Spencer? Let's see. Spencer P. Nothing from Spencer yet. Okay, we will just wait for those. Let me go ahead and write them down on the list. Okay. Yours and Spencer. Okay, cool. Moving on. Let's continue on answering questions. Again, for those of you who are joining us today, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. Again, we're just going to answer questions in regards to fantasy football. If you guys haven't checked out earlier today's, potential video in regards to the hidden gems of week 5, be sure to do so. Thank you. All right, so we had a next question from Ashley Gomez, who says the following. In a half PPR flex 2, Wan'Dale Robinson, Trey Sermon, Christian Kirk, Mostert, Jacoby Myers. Okay, got it. So of the available options, Wan'Dale Robinson and Christian Kirk are my 2 favorites of the group. If in fact they do say that Evan Ingram is going to play, I would then pivot to probably playing Wan'Dale Robinson and Trey Sermon. But that's only if in fact Evan Ingram is active. On Sunday, we'll know before the game. He's currently a game time decision. I would probably venture to say he may not suit up because, again, they don't need to bring him back too early. But if he does get brought back, I'll go Sermon, Waddle. Otherwise, I'll go Kirk and Waddle. Thank you. Jason sends in a question. Says, I got Kelsey. Should I drop Kraft for Gibson for depth? Yes. I think if Gibson, again, like I said in today's Hidden Gems video, Antonio Gibson has proven in the past, in 2020 and in 2021, that he can finish as a top 12 fantasy running back. Now, Ramondre Stevenson, just a couple years back in 2022, finished as a top 12 running back as well. So, again, there's a lot of talent in that backfield. The issue is the offense as a whole just sucks. So the value that you'll get from him obviously isn't incredible, but there is still going to be matchups in which he can be beneficial to your team in the absence of injuries and, of course, players on bye week. So in terms of dropping Kraft and picking him up, considering you have Kelsey, and Kelsey doesn't have a bye week anytime soon, I'm perfectly fine with that overall kind of swap in that circumstance. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Did yours truly or Spencer end up typing in the live chat? There we go. I see Spencer P's question. Spencer P, thank you again. Says, I've got Kyle Pitts, but I was thinking of picking up Evan Ingram as a backup. Yep, you should. For insurance, could I drop Mostert or Warren? Yeah, I dropped Warren there. Yeah, let's drop Jaylen Warren. Again, Jaylen Warren dealing with a knee injury. It's not looking good. As of right now, between the bunch, yeah, you would like to pick up Evan Ingram in order to not only have an additional backup tight end, but also have a trade piece that in the future, if he starts to perform well, not if, when he begins to perform well, you can then ship him or Kyle Pitts off and get some value out of it for sure. That's definitely a good move on your part. Thank you for the question, Spencer. I appreciate it. Okay, we move on to a question that comes in from X Reese 2010, who says the following. With Neighbors now out, would you start Geno or Kyler? I ask because I don't think Geno will have much to do to beat the Giants. You're not wrong. I don't 100% disagree with that overall sentiment, especially considering, again, with the primary offense of the New York Giants being extinguished now that Neighbors is not active and there is no Singletary, the Giants will be a husk of themselves. So I'd say, yeah, I'm willing to then pivot to Kyler in that circumstance. I'm cool with that. Also, yes, if you have the Seattle defense, probably fire them up this week. Dylan sends in a question. Dylan Joseph says, in the flex, Rico, Lockett, Whittington, scoring is a standard format. Got it. So if we're just looking off of pure non-PPR, just off of yardage alone and the potential for a touchdown, I mean, as of right now, I'd probably lean to, oh man. Okay, so in a standard league, typically I prefer the running back because of the volume of touches. But let's say, for example, Rico Dowdle gets himself 10 rushing attempts for 45 yards. Okay, that'd be a pretty good week. 4.5 yards per carry, beautiful. But I think that would pretty much be it. That's his limit of production. Unless he breaks out a huge run, he's not going to get himself much receiving work. Ultimately, I think of the group, it's either Whittington or Lockett. Right now, based on how... I'd probably honestly just play Lockett there. That's the way that I'd go about it. I think... Actually, it depends, right? If there's not going to be... Look, there's two ways of thinking about this, right? The Giants are going to be in a negative game script because the Seattle Seahawks should be able to plunge themselves into an early lead. Are they going to take that lead with the efforts of Lockett, or are they just going to have a quiet day for Lockett? Because it's certainly possible. And on the other half, it's like Whittington, regardless of how that game goes, he would have to be implemented. So honestly, the right play is Whittington here. Yeah, the right play is Whittington, Lockett, Rico in that order. Omar G says Leggett or Worthy in a PPR. Also, Justice Hill or Agumbawale. Between the two of them, look, here's the thing. There's a chance that Dameon Pierce plays. So if they're going to be a three-headed monster there with the Texans backfield, I'm not so interested. I'd probably just lean in the direction of going Justice Hill in this circumstance. As for your prior question between Worthy and Leggett, I'm probably going to stick in the direction of Worthy. In a PPR, it's a little bit more enticing to go Leggett, but I don't know if there'll be that big of a difference in terms of total receptions had. It's just a matter of who has the highest likelihood of production. I like Worthy in the week going up against the Saints defense. Thank you. Alex sends in a question. Alex says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, should I start Trey Sermon over Garrett Wilson? In a full PPR, probably not. Again, Trey Sermon's never going to get himself a reception out of this backfield. They'll probably bring in Tyler Goodson whenever they want to utilize the receiving game out of the backfield. That's why earlier today, the head coach Shane Steichen specifically said, like, oh, it's going to be a running back by committee. Like, what that specifically means is, yeah, we're not going to just utilize one back for, every down like they have utilized for Jonathan Taylor earlier this season. If you guys remember going back to week 1, not a single other running back on that team had a single other touch besides Jonathan Taylor. So in this circumstance, they'll probably kind of just utilize Sermon for his strengths and Tyler Goodson for his strengths and kind of utilize both of them in that kind of capacity. I'd rather just play Garrett Wilson in this circumstance. Thank you. Lethal Jake sends in a question. Thank you, Jake. He says in a PPR, pick 1. We have Keenan Allen, Zach Moss, Jawan Jennings, Cam Akers. Also, is Fields a play over Richardson this week? If Richardson starts, which, again, is there a report that says he's going to go? Is there anything that has changed in the last couple hours? Let's see here. If I go to Anthony Richardson on... Okay, let's see here. Anything new? Yeah, he's still questionable. Again, when Flacco is being reported to taking the first team reps, it looks like it's going to be a Fields day. So, I'm going to lean in the direction of just assuming that Anthony Richardson doesn't go. And even if he does go, I think it's probably just safer to go with Fields in that circumstance, because if Anthony Richardson is already dealing with an injury, the chance of a re-aggravation of that injury, if he gets hit the wrong way or if, something like that happens, I think it's a little bit too sketchy in my mind. I just play Fields in that circumstance. Now, as for your prior question there, Jake, with Keenan Allen, Zach Moss, Jawan Jennings, Cam Akers, if I'm picking one of the 4, I probably feel most comfortable going with Zach Moss, to be honest. That's the guy that I'd kind of roll with at this moment. Thank you. Laker Nation sends in a question, says, Wicks, BTJ, Ford, pick 2. Yeah, out of those 3 options in a PPR scoring format, I'd go with Dontavion Wicks and Brian Thomas Jr. Very confidently. Thank you. All right, let's go into the live chat. We have to find Zolbu's question, and then hopefully yours truly maybe typed in the chat recently. Yours truly, nothing yet. Okay, yours truly is just off the scene. Very well. Then we'll go to Zolbu. There's nothing from Zolbu in the live chat either. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and add that to the list and keep it moving. Zolbu. All right. Moving on from Zolbu, we had a question from I'm Gucci. The question goes as such. It says, in a PPR, I'm 0-4 in this league. Must win. Starters are Kyler, Mason, Connor, Marvin Harrison, Olave. Okay, pretty strong roster across the board. Do I flex Wicks or Brian Robinson Jr. if he plays? Okay, he will play, by the way. Also, Hill or Achane. Okay, so you have Mason, Connor, Marvin Harrison, Olave. Shoot. Okay. This is the way that I'd probably go about it, honestly. If it was my team, I'd probably play Wicks over Olave, and then I play Brian Robinson in the flex. That's the way that I would do it. It's a little bit unorthodox in comparison to what you have currently set in stone, but that's the way I go about it. As for the next question, as for Hill or Achane, I don't want to play Achane. Again, if they get down early in that game, I'd rather take the gamble of Hill being able to make one singular play that can make his week. Crispy sent in something, but there was nothing attached. Let's see if I can find Crispy's question. Crispy says, hey, Andrew. I hope all is well. It is. Thank you, Crispy. Pick 3 between Deontay Johnson, Garrett Wilson, Jaden Reed, Tyreek Hill, BTJ, and Wicks. I have Deontay. Okay, so regardless of what you have, this is the way that I'd go about it. Jaden Reed, number 1, Deontay Johnson, number 2, and Wicks, number 3. So technically, you'd be starting 2 Packers, which I don't love. So at that point, if you want to just play it kind of without having too much of a bias in one position or on one team, you can go Jaden Reed, Deontay Johnson, and BTJ. And I think that's also safe because BTJ's matchup against the Indianapolis Colts should be a free one. So that's probably the best move, just to kind of diversify just in case anything happens where it's a full day of only Josh Jacobs touchdowns and everybody else gets burnt. There's always a possibility of that. So we just want to be safe. And back-to-back in my rankings will be Wicks and BTJ. So I'm not even too worried about that. Thank you for the question, Crispy. Appreciate it. All right, moving on from Crispy's question, we have one that comes in from Bed Bosch, who says, I'm 4-0. Trade Mason for Najee and Hunt or Devontae. If I'm going to trade Mason, okay, and I don't have McCaffrey, I'd rather have Devontae Smith than Najee and Hunt come back. Now, it's a matter of what kind of depth you require. If you are in need of a running back, then sure, we can make that move. But ultimately, I'd rather just keep Mason at this point than have to trade for Najee Hunt, or just move him for Devontae Smith. But ultimately, again, as the days have gone on, every day gets me to a position to where I feel more and more comfortable just holding on to Mason, even if I don't have Christian McCaffrey, just because, again, that timeline for McCaffrey continues to extend. Bo sends in a question, says, trade Ford for Dell. Yeah, that's fine. Again, Ford eventually is going to be replaced. Dell hasn't done anything, so I guess you're buying him at his floor in this circumstance, so I don't mind it. Again, as long as you don't need the running back depth of Ford in the next couple weeks, because, again, Nick Chubb won't play for probably 2-3 weeks here, and then eventually will get implemented. Bacon sends in a question, says, full PPR. I was offered Bijan for Kupp. My wide receivers are Deontay, Jaden Reed, Garrett Wilson. What do you think? Yeah, I take the deal. I take Bijan rest of the season. If I'm not mistaken, Bijan plays against the Panthers next week. Let me see here. Falcons schedule. Yeah, so he plays against the Panthers, which again is a top 3 matchup. Then then the Seahawks, which is a top 10 matchup. Then the Buccaneers, Cowboys, which is a top 3 matchup. Then the Saints. Again, we've seen a lot of running backs find pretty good volume of success against these teams. I wouldn't actually mind it going forward. Again, if that Tampa Bay game is another shootout, could be pretty fun. So yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. I'll take Bijan rest of the season. No hesitation on that one. Thank you. Moving on to YG, who says, how high we ranking London now? Is he top 10? I thought he was already top 10. Hold up. Am I crazy? I swear I thought I had him top. Maybe he was 11 this week. Let's see here. Patreon rankings. Where did I have my wide receiver? I had him at 11. I mean, again, anybody in that like top 15 is an auto start every week, right? So, I mean, at this point, does he need to move up any further? I mean, again, if you're in the top 12 wide receiver rankings, it's an auto start every week. If you don't already start him, I mean, at this point, I think 11 is pretty strong. Do we expect it to be a game in which Kirk Cousins goes for a career high in passing yards, passing attempts, passing touchdowns? No. But yeah, again, it's not going to be like that every week. But London, again, he's proven it. I said it on Wednesday's video. The guy's averaging over 9 targets per game over the course of the last 4 games. And that is all we wanted. We just wanted opportunity. And that's all he's needed in his career. He has not had it, evidently with Mariota and or Ritter last year. So glad that obviously it's all coming to fruition with him. It says above Garrett Wilson or Olave. I mean, yes. I mean, of course. Rest of season value, significantly ahead of those two. Yeah, significantly. Michael Ortiz sends in a question. Says, my good sir, pick one wide receiver and one flex, full PPR. Cooper, Wicks, Worthy, Ford, Dell. Are we starting Purdy over Burrow this week? No. I'm going to play, well, I could justify the idea of not playing Burrow because, again, it is Baltimore's defense, but I think Burrow will be fine. I don't think he'll look like Josh Allen last week. But as for your one wide receiver, one flex of the available positions you have here, I'm going to play Wicks along with Cooper. That's the way I'd go about it if it was my team. Wicks a wide receiver, Cooper in the flex, and then I just roll with Burrow at wide receiver, Burrow at quarterback. Let's see here. Ron Scoff sends in a question. Says Ayuk, Ferguson for what wide receiver? Kupp, Ayuk for Adams. I'd go for Debo. Honestly, I know trading for one San Francisco wide receiver to get another one, it doesn't really. I don't know how open to the idea, the other manager would be to that circumstance, but that's kind of what I'd look for. I guess it's just a matter of like which team in your league needs Ferguson, because that's really like the biggest trade piece there that they're getting in return besides the wide receiver. So I mean, if you can get Cup out of it, I don't mind it. Again, this is under the assumption you have another tight end other than Ferguson that's going to be the structural piece of your offense going forward. And I don't mind also trading for Adams in that circumstance either. So yeah, that works for me. Heat South Beach sends in a question. Nothing attached to it, but let me see if I can find it in the live chat. Heat South Beach. Nothing in the live chat. If you could do me a favor and type it, that'd be greatly appreciated. Heat South Beach. Let's see if Zolbu ended up typing a question into the chat. So let's see if we can find that. Zolbu says, I need two in a full PPR. Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary. So Singletary is not going to play because, again, very seldom do we ever see a running back, or not even a running back, a player in general, be given the doubtful designation and ever play. That's out of the, like, I'd say maybe it's a 1% chance. So again, if we're just preparing for that, situation, I'd probably, oh, wow. Do we play Stevenson and Gibson just to ensure all of the backfield value, or do we just take the risk? Honestly, Zolbu, I think if I was in your position, full PPR, do I take the full? If I was in your position, I would probably just play both. Yeah, I'd probably just play both Patriots running backs. Just so, like, you don't get duped. That's it. I'd hate to be in a position where I'm like, all right, I'm benching Ramondre, and then you play Gibson, and Ramondre goes off for the best game of the season. Like, he has 8 rushing attempts for 80 yards and a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, that's obviously not his best game of the season, but you know what I mean? Like, because of the Miami matchup, it would make me sick to my stomach if Ramondre outproduced them and we benched him. So I think in your position, similar to the same way in which we do if you have Montgomery and Gibbs, you kind of have to start them both, and I don't think that's even a bad idea considering the matchup against Miami. Thank you for the question, Zolbu. We're going to go back into the live chat. So Zolbu's taken care of. We're going to look for the Heat South Beach question. Nothing yet. Okay, very well. We took care of Spencer P, if I'm not mistaken. So then we're looking for yours truly, who hopefully is still somewhere in here. Yours is a different name, but okay. So yours truly is just gone. All right. Well, hopefully they'll come back sometime soon and type in the live chat. Appreciate it. Moving on. All right, let's get back to these questions. So, we'll get to Heat South Beach in a moment, but I'm Gucci U Polo sends in a question, says one more, Kmet, Conklin, or Parkinson? I don't think I've changed my rankings that much since Thursday, so I'm still going to keep with Conklin in that scenario. Thank you. KB says, was yesterday the London breakout or bust, or just a blip? The London breakout? Am I confusing? I thought London broke out in week 2. Am I crazy? Maybe we have a different definition of breakout. If you're looking for 10 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown to be a breakout performance, then I guess. But anytime you score over 15 fantasy points, there's your breakout, right? Because really that's a pretty good chunk of points that we'll take any given week. So I would say that the breakout was week 2, week 3, and then even though week 4 was kind of lackluster in terms of his overall upside, like week 5, I guess, is the best performance of the season thus far, but ultimately kind of expected. I don't know. I don't know if it's a breakout per se. Again, week 2 and 3 were pretty satisfactory. All right, let's see here. Abi sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR 14-team league, I have 1 wide receiver, 1 flex spot open. Please help me select 2 options out of the following. We have DJ Moore, Scary Terry, Dontavion Wicks, Hunt, and Ford. Okay, very well. In a full PPR scoring format, Abi, I would go ahead and I would select Scary Terry and Wicks to be your starters at wide receiver flex. So those are the 2 that I'm most comfortable with at this moment out of the available options. Now, as for your follow-up question, also trade question, Moore, Njoku, and Ford for Pickens and Achane. Yes, I will take the Pickens. Yeah, that actually works. If you can make that trade right now, I would do it. Yeah, give me Pickens and Achane rest of the season. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Bob France sends in a question. Thank you, Bob. Bob says 2 flex in a full PPR 12-team league. Any trades or things I should do? Question mark. I'm in a 12-man league. I have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, Marvin Harrison. I mean, dude, your team is stacked. Okay, first and foremost, you may not think it's stacked, but you have a really strong team. Like, I understand Bijan hasn't played well. I know that Chase started off slow. I know that Kupp is injured, but Saquon, Bijan, Chase, Marvin, Bowers, Kupp, Achane. Like, if I was trying to build a infinity gauntlet of players that I would like to have for the remainder of the season, like, and I'm just like saying, all right, these are the guys that I think are going to be top potential 10 options at their position. these are definitely names that are going to be in that conversation. If not, I mean, really, some of these are like the number ones or twos at the position. So like Bowers, Chase, Saquon. So in this circumstance, pretty strong. Don't think you need to move anything. As for the 2 flex options that you would go with this week, again, if you aren't already starting Wicks, he needs to start. And then also next to him would probably be Sermon. That's the direction that I'm leading in regards to the players after Achane. Because again, if you're going Saquon, Bijan, Chase, Marvin Harrison, let's say you're in a start. Okay, so let's say you can only start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. The 2 flex that I would start this week for you would be Wicks and Sermon. I'd end up benching Achane. If you want to play Achane just out of the hope that he can have something great, sure, that's fine. You have to play him over Sermon, but you have to play Wicks in the flex. Thank you. All right, moving on. We had a question that came in from, let's see. Actually, really quickly, before I go to that question, let me see if Heat South Beach ended up sending a question into the live chat. Anything in the live chat? Heat South Beach says, start Jawan Jennings or Jacoby Myers. I'd rather just play Jacoby Myers. I understand that the coverage is against, Patrick Surtain, but I don't know if I can trust Jawan Jennings every single week. Now that Debo's probably at back at a full capacity, it'd be very difficult for me to trust him in that circumstance. Thank you. We move on to a question from Chronofied, who says, JSN or Tyrone Tracy in the flex. For starting tight end, do I start Freiermuth or Evan Ingram off of injury? Thanks. So, yeah, listen, if Evan Ingram if he's active on Sunday morning, I'm playing him. If you want to avoid the kind of off from injury, again, I don't think they would put him out there because, again, the severity of his injury, I don't think they would put him out there unless they knew he was at 100%. So, if he's active, I'm playing Evan Ingram. Now, as for your prior question, JSN or Tracy, I honestly think I probably just play Tracy. If it's a full PPR, I can justify playing JSN. But like we talked about earlier, there are probably many of different routes in which this Seahawks team can win this game. One of which could be just not even allowing the Giants to score a point outside of field goals, just in the same way in which, of course, last week we had that same situation in the Dallas Cowboy game. So if that is to take place, I'd probably just rather... Who has more upside? I think Tyrone Tracy receiving upside in that second half is kind of what I want to hope for. And if they get put into a situation because of a turnover or because of, honestly, just good football play by the Giants, him getting a goal line touchdown could be in the realm. So I'd probably just go with Tracy there. I don't want to take a risk with JSN. Even though it's not technically a risk, I just think that there's a little bit more stability and safety with Tyrone. All right, Tony Lopez sends in a question. Nothing attached to it. Let's see here. Tony Lopez. Anything? Nothing yet. Tony, do me a favor. Type in the live chat when you get a chance. Tony Lopez. All right, so moving on from Tony's question. We go to Eric Watson, who says, start 3, Debo, Ayuk, Pittman, Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers. Got it. So this is the way that I have it. Debo and Deontay Johnson are automatic starts. The only other automatic start would be if, in fact, Joe Flacco starts, you have to start Pittman. If Joe Flacco does not start and it is Anthony Richardson, I would then pivot to playing Amari Cooper. Thank you, Eric. Don Ray Morales says, in a half PPR, pick 2, Moss, J-Gen, Keon Coleman, or Goodson. I'd go with Moss and Keon Coleman there. Thank you. Cinco2X says PPR, Rico Dowdle or Javonte Williams. Stevenson's not starting, right? Between those two, I'd go with Javonte Williams this week against the Raiders. Thank you. Thomas Wilson sends in a question. Says, I have neighbors, London and Pickens. Get Amari and Evans for James Conner. Gives me depth at wide receiver, but leaves me with Breece, Dowdle, and Brooks. Thomas, I think it's actually not a bad trade. I think I'd make the trade and then you'd bank on keeping Amari and then ship off Evans for another running back. I think that's the play. So you can go about it any which way you'd like. I'm okay taking the deal, but the way that I kind of see it fitting out for your roster, you might want to keep Evans, Neighbors, and London as your primary 3, but then at that point, you're just going to ship away Pickens and Amari. Now, if you're playing in a double flex league, then you'd keep them all and just have them continue to start every single week. But if you're not, it's like, let's say it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. At that point, you'd make this trade, and then you'd either ship away Evans for another running back or ship away Amari Pickens for another running back in order to give yourself a little bit more depth because you certainly will need it. And if you're going to make this trade, make sure that you have a running back trade potentially in line before you do. Because if you're going to go into this weekend with just Breece Hall and Rico Dowdle, I don't know if it serves you the best overall position. But then again, without Neighbors, I don't know what the rest of your roster looks like. So again, that's the way that I see it. Make the trade. Try to move either Evans or Pickens Amari to try to get another running back for depth. Thank you. KB sends in a question. It says Josh Allen, Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, my running back depth, Connor or Chuba/Brooks, very well. McBride, Nico. Should it be Drake or Godwin as my wide receiver too? Maybe second wide receiver purely matchup base. I mean, at this point, based on the way that your team looks, you've got so much. I mean, at this, oh man, I was gonna say try to improve JT. Like you take, well, no, there's no point. Yeah, I think it has to be matchup. But I mean, I thought Godwin would be better. I mean, he just didn't score. That's really it. If he finds one of those receiving touchdowns, if it doesn't go to Sterling Shepard, or if it doesn't go twice to Evans, or if they don't stall out on all those drives and force the field goals, I thought Godwin should have had a far better overall game. But I mean, at this point, it kind of has to be Drake going forward. Drake, Nico, and Drake and Nico are that 1-2 wide receiver combo. Because at this point, playing Saquon, JT, well, as of this week, right? Saquon and Connor. JT, once he gets healthy, yes, will eventually take over that flex spot or that RB2. Yeah, I think you just hold and you just play matchups accordingly. Thank you. Andrew sends in a question, says DK or Jamison Williams? Sorry, DK and Jamison Williams for my AJ Brown. Do I take it? You only take it if you are desperately in need of wide receiver depth. Otherwise, I'd rather just have AJ Brown rest of the season. Thank you. Crypt sends in a question, says, I need a flex in a full PPR. Garrett Wilson, Wandale Robinson, or James Conner? Let's go pull up the rankings. Let's see here. Where do I have Connor? Okay, let's go to full PPR. Full PPR. Nope, that's not where I wanted to type. Connor. Okay. So Connor, as of right now, is ahead of Garrett Wilson in a full PPR. I'd probably, now that Neighbors is out, I'd probably be leaning in the direction of, do I want to play Connor? I'd still play Connor there. Like, I kind of want to play Wandale Robinson, but that defense has played very well for the Seattle Seahawks. Enough to where I'll stick with the stability of Connor as of right now. Thank you. Tatua, 28, says, what's your take on Darius Slayton this week? Not interested. That's my take. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, again, if you're in a desperate situation, like a 14-team league, and you are desperate for a wide receiver, I'm okay with it. But Darius Slayton, unless he scores a touchdown or has a huge reception down the field and where he bobbles the pass and, figures it out, yeah, I'm not too interested. Ramblin' Man says, Eckler or Hunt rest of the season? Eckler is the better running back rest of the season because, again, eventually Pacheco would come back. Half PPR and Diggs or DK rest of the season? I'd rather have DK. Thank you. Cowboys 9511 says, Wicks or Diggs this week? I'm torn between the two. I could justify playing Wicks there, but I think I'm just going to stick with the Stephon Diggs revenge game as of right now. Adam sends in a question, says, Justin Fields or Joe Burrow this week? I prefer Justin Fields. Thank you. Daniel Barnes sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, I have Love, Mason, Achane, Montgomery, Braylon Allen, Chubb, Jalen Brooks. We have Lamb, Marvin Harrison. We have London. We have Moore. We have BTJ. We have McBride. Thinking of dropping Braylon Allen for Waddle or Hawkinson? Yes, immediately. Now, Waddle. Do it. Buy it, sell it, everything. Immediately. Yes. Waddle. Get him on roster. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. Anthony Barrett says, PPR, Alexander Madison, Javonte Williams, or Chase Brown. Pick one. If I feel, the one that I feel most confident about this week is Javonte Williams, honestly. So I go Javonte number 1, Madison 2, Chase Brown 3 in a full PPR. Thank you. Moving on to another question we had. Let me actually check. Did Tony Lopez send a question to the chat? Did he just type it in? Because if he did, then we can get to it now and we get to go. Tony Lopez, he did. He says, Superflex, full PPR. My team, when healthy, consists of Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, running backs Mixon, Kenneth Walker, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, Jaden Reed, Njoku at tight end, benches Olave, Ayuk, Pollard, Otten, Wanda Robinson, Tracy, Braylon. What moves should I make? Yeah, I think there's a lot of moves that you can make. I think in this kind of a format, I mean, if you can, you try to improve on Anthony Richardson by trading him for something else. Now, if you have Flacco on roster this week, I guess you can hold for now. Considering how Mixon has kind of turned out with the injuries, it might be, well, I kind of want to hold on to Mixon because I think he will be of value, but Pollard and Ayuk kind of sitting on the bench, it just makes me sick. I think Pollard needs to either be started in your league or on your team specifically or in your league somewhere. So I might just take Pollard and try to go improve on quarterback. Like you take T-Law and you take Pollard after this week, because again, it'll be kind of a little bit more difficult to trade Pollard right now because he's on bye week. I know that sounds stupid, but I guarantee you your league mates are less receptive to the idea of trading for him, especially if they need running back depth at the moment. They're not going to really lose the week because they make the trade. So I think in terms of getting the best reception out of it, you let Lawrence have a solid game here. You would take him and Pollard and go get a better quarterback, because honestly, if you're not going to start him every week, it's just a waste having him on your bench. That's the primary move that I'd make. Outside of that, you could end up trying to make a bigger improvement at wide receiver for your flex. Like you can take Ayuk or Pollard. You could take Pollard and Olave and just go get a top tier option. Like you could legit go get, easily without a doubt in my mind, you can go get Jamar Chase. There's no way that unless he has ample running backs, I would imagine that he'd be like, all right, I'm willing to take it. Thank you. Because again, you get an 18-point running back and an 18-point wide receiver for your 22-point wide receiver. Like you're thinking, yeah, you know what? Let's take that deal. Like you'd be giving up a lot, but again, you're kind of stuck in a situation where unfortunately you have too much depth. A blessing and a curse. All right, let's see here. We move on to a question that comes in from Anthony Barrett, a follow-up. Okay, no, we took care of Anthony Barrett's question. We move on to Ryan, who says, half PPR, start 7. Thoughts on sending 2-for-1 trades to upgrade my top-end talent? I'm currently 3-1. We have Jalen Hurts, Gibbs, Jacobs, Dobbins, Singletary, Najee, Jefferson, Kupp, Waddle, Shakir, JSN, Sutton, Kincaid, Hawkinson. Thanks. Okay. So Hurts stays, Kincaid stays with Hawkinson. Those are like definite no move. You don't have to move them at all. Gibbs and Jacobs I'm keeping on roster. Dobbins, Singletary, Najee. If I'm going to sell 2 of the 3, I'd probably just try to move Singletary and Dobbins as of right now. As for Jefferson, Kupp, you can keep those. Waddle, you keep Shakir. So look, if I was going to make a move in which I'm moving players, like I'm taking Dobbins, I'm taking Shakir, JSN, Sutton. Those are the movable options. If you can 3-for-1 to make improvements via those overall players, then let's go for it for sure. Outside of that, I'm not truly trying to move anybody else off this team. I guess you technically could try to move Waddle, but I think with the 3-1 record and how strong your team looks as it currently stands, I think it's more beneficial for you to keep him and wait for his return. Thank you. Thomas Wilson says, in a PPR flex, Dowdle, Tracy, or Leggett? In a full PPR format, I mean, at this point, I think I'm just going to stick with the... I think I want to play Tracy. I think I'm going to suggest Tracy, but I think Leggett is probably just very closely behind him. Very closely. But I think I'm going to play Tracy this week. I don't know, man. It's tough. It's not an easy approach. But yeah, I think I'll take Tracy there. Inderjit sends in a question. It says, DK and Travis as an ETN for Brown and Kyler. Oh, no. Maybe Travis is... when you put Trav, okay? It's not Trev. So it's Trav, like Travis. It's either Travis Kelce or Travis Etienne. So... either way, for Brown, and when you say Brown, you mean A.J. Brown, right? I'm going to assume. And Kyler, quarterback. Quarterback is Anthony Richardson and Geno. So, as of right now, DK and ETN for A.J. Brown? No. I'd rather keep DK and Travis Etienne. Even if it was DK and Travis Kelce, I'd rather just keep DK and Travis Kelce. Thank you. Pollux sends in a question. Says, I have to drop one between Antonio Gibson, Jacoby Myers, or Trey Sermon. I'm currently 0-4 in a PPR, by the way. I'm still having trouble with Patreon. I mean, Pollux, I told you to send me an email. You never sent me an email, bro. I checked this morning. There was no email sent from you. I was waiting for it. Didn't get anything. So you got to do me a favor and email me, like I told you. If I'm going to drop one of the 3, I'm dropping Sermon. Thank you. Demetrio sends in a question. Says Kittle or Komet? If Kittle plays, we'll fire him up, but I don't even know if he's going to play. So just always keep Komet on hand just in case. Akers or Hill? Yeah, we're just going to play Hill there. Thank you. Jamel Joyner sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, I need one flex out of Javonte Williams or Josh Downs. I would only play I'd only play Downs if Flacco is the starting quarterback. We'll know that by Sunday morning. If he's not going to be active and it's Anthony Richardson, we'll just pivot to playing Javonte. Thank you. Jawad sends in a question. Says, would you do a team review, how to improve team, etc.? Would you do team review, how to improve team? I mean, usually when people send in questions, they ask, like, hey, how do I improve this team? And I'll just like suggest a couple trades or a couple ways to go about it. I mean, again, ultimately, the best way to understand what your team looks like is to get a full scope of what, like everything that's available, waiver what the other teams in your league look like, points for, points against, overall record, how many teams make the playoffs, what's the actual scoring format, like all those kind of things, how much fab you have left. A full team review of that capacity is like a Patreon question, but yeah. But I'm more than happy to help you on live stream if you want. Nick sends in a question, says Mahomes or Trevor Lawrence in a full PPR, leaning on Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I play Lawrence as of this week. I'm not going to play Mahomes. Caden Wiltz says BTJ or Garrett Wilson and Sermon or Kirk in the half PPR. If Evan Ingram is out, I'll play Kirk. If he's not, we'll go to Sermon. I'll take BTJ over Garrett Wilson this week. Thank you. Eric Nixon sends in a question, says in a 12-team full PPR, pick 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, and 1 flex out of the following: Debo, Jennings, Shaheed, Myers, Dowdle, Hunt, Keon Coleman. Cool. Of the available, Debo is a automatic start at wide receiver, along with Shaheed. The third wide receiver of this bunch that I'm probably going with is Myers. Then I would start Hunt as your RB1. And then I would probably go with Keon Coleman as that flex. So Debo, Shaheed, Myers, Coleman, Hunt. Thank you. As for your second question, Vikings or 49ers defense, currently starting Lawrence over Mahomes and started Bijan Robinson. Got it. As of this week, I'd prefer to play the Vikings defense. Thank you. Moving on. We had a question from, literally has no name. I don't even know how this channel has no names, but it just doesn't. Says, should I trade Kareem Hunt for Jonathan Taylor? Sorry, that's Jonathan Brooks. Excuse me. Should I trade Kareem Hunt for Jonathan Brooks and Deontay Johnson, or Flowers and Brooks? At this point, I'm very comfortable trading for either of the two combinations. I'm perfectly fine. If you trade Kareem Hunt for Jonathan Brooks and Deontay Johnson, I'm happy with it. If you trade him for Flowers and Brooks, I'm happy with it. Whichever one they want to give you or whichever one you want to take, I'm cool with it. I have no issue with either of them. I'd make the trade in both circumstances. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you. David Bailey sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, Javonte... Yo, why did my YouTube keep crashing every time, every day? The last week, it has just been crashes left, right, and center. Mid-question too, huh? All right, getting back to the question on hand, we had the following. David Bailey says, Javonte Williams or Trey Sermon in a full PPR? In a full PPR, I'd probably go Javonte because, again, I don't expect Trey Sermon to have much receiving upside in that circumstance. Paul Allen says, Wicks over Tyreek Hill. Yes, I played Wicks over Tyreek Hill this week. Sean Trevino says, in a 2 RB2 flex full PPR league, I have Hunt, Sermon, Tracy, Achane, Wandell, Adunze, Flowers. Thanks. Also, dropping Jennings or try to make a trade. If you can trade Jennings, more power to you. I don't think he has any value, but more power to you if you can do it. As for who you're starting this week, Hunt is that RB1 alongside of, in a full PPR, probably Tracy. And then I'm starting Wandell Robinson along with Achane in the flex. That's the way that I would go about it, Sean. Thank you. Juice Fino says, sup, Andrew. In a full PPR, Leggett or Hunt over Ayuk? In a full PPR, am I playing Hunt over Ayuk? Probably not. I'd probably just leave Ayuk in there. Thank you. Luis Becerra says, Sutton or Addison in the flex? Also, why is Bijan getting less touches? That I couldn't tell you. Objectively, I do not know the answer. That's a question for the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. And that's funny enough, the same issue we had last year, right? Regardless of what offensive coordinator it is, there just seems to be less of a commitment to getting Bijan Robinson the ball often. Obviously, they prefer to have, Tyler Algier out there for pass blocking duties. So that obviously continues to give Tyler Algier some value in that circumstance, but I don't get it. But as for your current question between Addison and Sutton, I'd probably just prefer to play Sutton in this circumstance. I think both of them are great plays. I just prefer Sutton. They're both going to be in my top 36 by Sunday morning, 6 a.m. But yeah, Sutton a little bit higher because of the Las Vegas matchup. Romeo Connor says, in a 2-2 record, I am in a 12-team half PPR format. Very well. Who would you trade for to bolster the team? Who would you offer? We have Anthony Richardson, Fields, Barkley, Etienne, Ramondre, Adams, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, McLaurin, McBride. Yeah, look, at this point, I'm trading Deontay Johnson for Deebo Samuel today. I'm also trading Ramondre Stevenson as quickly as I can to try to recoup some value at another running back. If you can trade him for Najee, I do it. Thank you. We move on to Anthony C., who sends in a question. Says, someone dropped JSN. Can I drop DeAndre Hopkins for him? Absolutely. DeAndre Hopkins should have been dropped 3 weeks ago. I'm not even joking. I'm going to play him over Pittman if Richardson plays. Yep, perfect. Thank you, Anthony. Solomon Reyes sends in a question, says, before the Thursday night game, I traded Aaron Jones and London for Higgins, Mooney, and Jacobs. 500 passing yards from Cousins clearly isn't sustainable. So how does that trade look? I mean, as a whole, I prefer Jacobs. Look, let's say, for example, Jacobs and Aaron Jones are similar value rest of the season, right? Then it's just a matter of, can Higgins pull his weight? That's really just going to be the question. As we go in the future, if Mooney and Higgins are both playing and they're playing well, the trade will benefit you greatly. But if Higgins can't, put up consistent performances, can't find the end zone, that's going to be the issue that potentially hamstrings this this trade. Let's see here. We had a question that came in from Admire, who said, start 2, wide receiver Pickens, Higgins, Wilson. I'll go Wilson and Higgins this week between those 3. Thank you. Nathan Dennison said, I traded Aaron Jones and Hunt for Mason and Christian McCaffrey. How did I do? My running backs are currently Jacobs, Mixon, Ford, Chubb, and then you also have Mason. Okay, cool. No issue with that. I'm fine with it. No issue at all. My wide receivers are yeah, cool. I mean, look, you have a really strong team. Once Mixon comes back and is healthy, you could probably end up shipping him away and probably finding some sort of value. Obviously, you don't need to bring in a tight end or a quarterback, considering you have McBride and Daniels. Amon-Ra and Chase are going to be your starters. Once Nakua comes back, he's going to be your flex, or you can kind of play matchups between Nakua. Yeah, you know what? You don't even need to move anything. You just keep it as is. Just keep your depth, because honestly, you've got a really, really strong team, Nathan. We move up to Alan, who sends in a question, says, start Myers, Ramondre, or Madison in the flex. Oof, I don't like really any of them If it was me, I'd probably play Alexander Madison. There's no Zamir White. I'd probably just go with Madison there. Daniel Barnes says, Waddle no longer on waiver wire. LOL, drop Braylon Allen for Hawkinson? Sure, that works. Curious Kid sends in a question, says, 18-man full PPR, Goff is on a bye. Do I pick up Huntley, Flacco, or Brissett and pick 2 out of these 3? Okay, so if Flacco is starting on Sunday, obviously he's the best option by a significant margin. If he is not starting by Sunday, you would then just play Huntley because you would want the rushing upside. Then, to follow up with your 2 out of 3, I'm playing Ayuk and I'm playing Addison out of your 3. Thank you. Bradshaw sends in a question, says, in a half PPR, Tracy or Gibson? I'd play Gibson as of right now. And Dell or Ayuk? I'll take Ayuk there. Thank you. Jay sends in a question, says, I'm 3-1 currently. My team in a full PPR needs any flex moves. Hurts, Kyron, Gibbs, JT, Jamar, Wicks, JSN, Downs, Leggett, Wando Robinson, Njoku, Kraft. Also, who can I drop for a kicker? If you're going to drop one of these guys, technically it would be Kraft. If Njoku's active on Sunday, then you would drop Kraft and you pick up a kicker affordably. And then you could also be in a situation where if Richardson starts for, let's say, for example, Njoku doesn't play. Let's say somehow, some way in the pre-game warm-up, he gets injured again. You would play Kraft at tight end, then you would drop Downs under the assumption that we're in a situation where Flacco is not starting, and then you would pick up a kicker. So those are your alternative options. Outside of that, I mean, really, if there's any moves to make, you could theoretically take one of your studs and break them off for 2 players, but honestly, I want to keep Kyron, Gibbs, JT, and Jamar Chase. You could take I'm going to trade away JT and go get a Pollard and an Olave. You can get a combo like that if you want in return, just to have more depth across the board. I don't know if you technically need it per se, because again, they're providing such a huge value boost. But if you go around and ask and see what players are available, if there's any 2-for-1s that actually look intriguing, where you're getting a running back, wide receiver in return, then yeah, let's venture down that road. Gem Hunter sends in a question and says, PPR start 2, Etienne, Najee, Wicks, Jacoby. Okay, out of those available in a PPR format, I'm going to play Wicks, and I'm going to also play Najee. And then your next question, also Patriots or Jets defense. I currently have the Patriots defense ranked higher. Pukamon sends in a question, says, start Baltimore defense or Pittsburgh's defense this week. I have Pittsburgh's ranked higher. Or drop one for Chicago. Let me check where I have Chicago in comparison to Pittsburgh really quickly. So as it currently stands, I have Pittsburgh at 4 and Chicago at 5. So they're back-to-back and they're in the same tier. So it's kind of up to you on how you want to go about that. I currently have Pittsburgh just 1 spot ahead of Chicago there. Thank you. We move on to a question that comes in from El Sway, who says, starting Pittman if Flacco plays. If not, who's my wide receiver 2 in my flex in a full PPR? Leggett, Kirk, JSN. Thanks for telling me to stick with Mooney. Wish I started him. LOL, no problem. So as of right now, the way that I would go about it, under the assumption that Pittman does not play, you would play Christian Kirk and you would play Xavier Leggett. Thank you. Jay sends in a question. Says, I also have Tyron Tracy and Braylon Allen. Let me scroll back up, Jay, really quickly. Looking at the rest of the team. Yeah, at that point, I mean, again, you could end up dropping. Yeah, you would still drop Kraft, ultimately. That's really it. You still, I mean, yeah, getting those 2 running backs give you a little bit more depth, but I mean, again, that's more of a reason to maybe even trade JT and try to see if you can get a massive wide receiver haul back in return. Ibrahim sends in a question, says in a 12-team PPR, 2 flex league, we have Kyler, JT, Swift, White, AJ Brown, Kupp, Garrett Wilson, Addison. Should I trade Garrett Wilson and Swift for ETN and Xavier Worthy? If it was my team in a full PPR, who would I rather have? Which combo? You know, I wish I knew what the prognosis of Rashee Rice was. Like, I really wish I knew officially what the trade or what the injury was. If they come out and they say it's a 100% ACL, I would tell you to take the deal. But considering we're still in an unknown scenario where it may not be as severe as an ACL, I think you just hold. Because again, I don't want to trade for Worthy unless I know he's going to get a greater target share within the offense going forward. Emmanuel sends in a question, says Lamar, Bijan, K9, Nico, Chase, Worthy, Wicks, Fields. Okay, pretty good looking team. I'm assuming it's a super flex with Lamar and Fields, which again is a great combo. Bench is Braylon, Devontae Smith on bye, Laporta on bye, Rice is on the IR, and Nick Chubb is on the out list. Thoughts on any trades? I mean, look, at this point, Bijan, K9, Chase, Nico, you theoretically have, again, those are all top 10 options. Then you have Lamar and Fields, which again are top 10 options. Then you have Devontae Smith, which is going to be a top 15. Laporta, who's a top 3. Rice, who could, I don't know, maybe comes back. But even if he doesn't, you have Worthy. I don't think you make any moves. Like, honestly, this is a very strong team across the board. If there's a player you don't like, I'm assuming it's Bijan. Just give him until next week to kind of rebalance against the Carolina Panthers. J-Rod sends in a question. Thank you, J-Rod. Says, competitive 10-team PPR. I would assume that every league is competitive, but, either way. I need one of each. Wide receiver, tight end, flex. We have Olave, Deontay, Pickens, BTJ, Kraft, McBride. Very well. So, of the available options, McBride starts at tight end. I would play Deontay at wide receiver, and I would play BTJ or Olave in the flex. I'd probably go BTJ in the flex. So it's like Deontay, BTJ, McBride. That's kind of the direction I'm leaning in as of right now. Also, what do you make of the Mondre situation? Love the channel. Thank you very much, J-Rod. So this is the way I see it. Regardless of Ramondre's quote-unquote struggles, really, I don't even blame Ramondre for the last couple of weeks of inconsistencies. It's just the fact of the matter of that they don't have a quarterback, they don't have any receiver talent, and they don't have an offensive line. And again, the David Andrews injury for the season ender is brutal. So quite frankly, regardless of what they put in the backfield, it's not going to be a pretty product unless it's a good matchup, which luckily for them this week, they have a chance of beating the Miami Dolphins. So as of right now, I don't love it. I'm going to hope that Mondre has some sort of semblance of a good week so that you can trade him away next week and find some sort of upside with it. Anakin sends in a question, says, flex Ayuk, Downs, or Christian Kirk this week? Under the assumption that Flacco plays, it's going to be Downs. If there's no Flacco, I just pivot to playing Christian Kirk there. Thank you. Edgar sends in a question, says, start Moss or Gibson with Ramondre news? I think I'd be comfortable playing Gibson there. I don't really want to play Moss against the Ravens unless I super have to. Bukamon sends in a question, says, give up Justin Tucker for Myers or Seibert available. Again, I'm going to continue to stick with Justin Tucker. Again, Justin Tucker has been a top 8 fantasy kicker for the last, I want to say 7 years. In the last like 3 or 4 years, he's always been a top 3 kicker. So I'd give it some time. If you want to make a swap, you swap for Seibert because again, that offense hasn't punted more than once in the last 3 games. So, and I think they've only punted 4 times this year as a whole. So the kicker for the Washington Commanders is someone that you want to have. If you are just sick and tired of Tucker, go for it. I wouldn't suggest you doing so, but I can understand the move. All right, Duro Modi sends in a question. Says, sup, Andrew? Got offered Breece Hall and McBride for Kyron and Bowers. Okay, very well. Do you think I should pull the trigger? If you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd have said yes. As of today, I don't know if I say yes. What do I want to do here? Okay, so I can see multiple ways of thinking about this, right? This is the way that my brain is kind of functioning at the moment. Once we get Puka and Cup back, Kyron's just going to continue to be a beast, right? And now that you have Michael Mayer dealing with whatever he's got to deal with, you have no Devontae Adams. Like, Bowers is even more in a lined up position to find more target share. So McBride's going to be great. Brees is going to be great. But I don't think I trade away Kyron and Bowers here. If anything, I could see it as a future lateral or horizontal move where, like, you're going to get equal value. But I mean, it's a matter of, like, do you prefer Brees and McBride? If you do, go with them. Otherwise, I think I'm just holding. Bob sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, we have Derrick Henry, Marvin Harrison, Pat Freiermuth, 4, Braylon Allen, Tyreek Hill, and Laporta. Henry, Hill, Marv. Yeah, I'd rather have the Henry and Marv Harrison side. That's who I want rest of the season. Henry and Marv Harrison. Thank you, Bob. Jim Slim 92 sends in a question. Says my wide receiver 1 is Jefferson. Wide receiver 2 is Brian Thomas Jr. Flex is Downs. On my bench, I have Moss, Trey Sermon, Higgins, and Addison. What should I change? No, you shouldn't change anything. You're good to go. And who should I flex? Yeah, under the assumption that we get into a position to where Joe Flacco does not play. If Joe Flacco doesn't play, then you would position Higgins to start in your flex. And that's the only change I would suggest. Otherwise, you're good to go. Eric G sends in a question. Thank you, Eric. Says Fields or Burrow this week. I have Fields ranked higher. Also, Eckler or Jennings. I'll go with Eckler this week. Thank you. All righty. Caught up there effectively. Is there any questions or any person that I missed? I think we took care of Tony Lopez. We're good to go. Is yours truly going to somehow show back up in the live chat? Been waiting since the beginning. Nothing from yours truly. All right. No problem. Again, for those of you who are joining us on this beautiful Friday night for week 5 of the 2024 fantasy football season, thank you. Again, you guys could be anywhere, but you choose to be here. And I mean, again, it shocks me that you guys choose to be here, but I greatly appreciate it nonetheless. I'm glad that you guys enjoy being around in the streams. Appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. What kind of questions do we have in the chat? Colby Ward says, Wan'Dale Robinson or Scary Terry? If it's a full PPR, I'm going to go with Wan'Dale. If it's a half, I'll probably just stick with Scary Terry. Jose says Cam Akers or Tyron Tracy. I'm just going to go with Tyron Tracy there. Less competition for touches. Let's see here. Everyone down on Kyler probably means he goes off. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. He probably goes off. But look, I mean, his history of success against the 49ers isn't very common. Like, they typically get his ass and they bottle him up a little bit. Marcos sends in a question in the live chat, says, good evening. I would say good night, but yeah, good evening works as well. It says, I need upside this week. I need 2 for the flex positions in a 14-team half PPR league. My options are Leggett, Madison, Dell, Tracy, and Akers. Of the available options you have, I think I'm going to probably go with like Tracy and Leggett or Tracy Madison. As for the 2 of them, because it's a half PPR, I kind of want to lean towards playing that running back position, but I don't love the idea of Madison against the Broncos per se. I'll take it still, though. I'll probably go both those running backs, Tracy and Madison, for right now. That's the direction I'm leaning in. Brett sent in the super chat. Thank you, Brett. Brett says, does Dobbs being out raise Wicks in your rankings? Yes, significantly. Wicks is now like in my top 16. Would you go Wicks over DJ Moore? Yes, I would. Thank you. Swaggy P says, all you guys selling on Josh Downs over all these better players than Downs? I don't even know what Swaggy's on about. Swaggy's fighting ghosts in the live chat. Jonathan in the live chat says, PPR, what 2 running backs should I start? James Conner, Ramondre, David Singletary, or Ford? I would suggest playing James Conner and Ford there this week. Thank you. Darth Raider says, in a half PPR, pick 2, Hunt, Akers, or Tank. I'm going to go with Hunt, and I'm going to go with, in a half PPR, if Dameon Pierce is active, I'm going to go with Hunt and Tank. If Dameon Pierce is out, I would go with Akers and Hunt. Thank you. Let's see here. Let me actually change this. Go. Nick Wilby says I missed. Okay, yeah, I did miss your question. Says Mahomes or T-Law. No, I think I answered this question, Nick, but maybe you got hit with an ad. I would assume it's probably an ad. Either way, I'm going to play Trevor Lawrence there. Thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of hope that Trevor Lawrence can pull through, especially with my with a couple pick'ems I put in. Yeah, I got a lot of hope in Trevor. Let's see here. We had a question from Sean K who says pick 2: Worthy, Kirk, Downs, Leggett, full PPR. Again, under the assumption that again Flacco is in, it would be Downs and Christian Kirk. If Flacco is not in, it is Anthony Richardson. I'm playing Kirk and Worthy. Thank you. Appreciate the question. Appreciate the super chat and the support in that regard. All right, Muth or Njoku, says Jackson. If Njoku's active, he's in my lineup. Nick Chubb worth holding? Absolutely, yes. Lowboy Blue says, I benched Pitts and Mooney for Wicks and Kraft. You think I'll regret it? I think we talked about this yesterday, or I answered this question yesterday. I said, I think you making that move wasn't a mistake, and I think you'll be fine. Are you going to get as much production as they produced? Probably not, because, again, their quarterback's probably not throwing for 500 yards on Sunday. Let's see here. Sweet Onion says, Wan'Dale Robinson or ETN in the flex full PPR. I think I want to play Wan'Dale Robinson. I just don't know if I bench ETN for that. I think the play your stud kind of unspoken rule leans me in the direction of ETN, just ever so slightly. ETN or Dobbins rest of the season, half PPR. I think I just stick with ETN there. Garrett Wilson or Bijan Robinson? Bijan. What does it say? I got both Mayfield and Allen. Should I try to trade one? Yes, try to trade Mayfield away. If you want, you can keep them both, but you're going to start Allen every week for the rest of time. El Pollo, 33, says in a full PPR, Olave or Ayuk rest of season. I'd rather have Olave rest of season. Thank you. PPR this week and rest of season, Downs, Leggett, and Sutton. Okay, let's say this week, right? The way that I would order it, under the assumption that we have a starting quarterback by the name of Flacco, right? It would be Downs, Sutton, Leggett. This week, it would be as such. Rest of season, it would be Sutton, Leggett, Downs in that order. Thank you. Caleb Garza says, pick 2 in a PPR. We have Wicks, Connor, and Marvin Harrison. I think I'm going to go Marvin Harrison and Wicks there, probably. In a full PPR. I don't know about Wicks over Connor, but I kind of want to. I don't know. I got to think about that one, actually. I haven't fully actualized taking where Wicks was at and moving him up. And I haven't reshuffled my flex rankings to abide by that overall change. So not 100% certain as to how I would go about it. Jim Slim 92 sent in a follow-up. He said, forgot to ask, start Bowers with Adams out or trust Ferguson versus Pittsburgh? That's a really good question. I think they're both incredible plays. I think considering we know that Michael Mayer is going to be out this week, I think Bowers is a little bit better play than he was on Thursday based on my rankings in that video. So I'll probably lean towards Bowers in this circumstance. I'd like to play them both, but I'm assuming you have something else better in the flex. Let's see here. Eric says, love the channel. Pick 2 in a standard. Pick 2 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. We have Aaron Jones, Hall, Moss, Dowdle. Yeah, the way that I'd go about it, Eric, is Hall and Aaron Jones are your running backs. Diggs is your wide receiver, and Higgins is your flex. Thank you. We move on to Trevor Dane, who sends in a question. Says, full PPR flex 1. Or pick 1 flex. Flowers, Brian Robinson, or Pickens. If Brian Robinson Jr. is fired up and ready to go, he is the number 1 option. The number 2 would be Pickens, under the assumption that Brian Robinson perhaps misses. I doubt that happens, but let's say he does. It would go Brian Robinson 1, Pickens 2, Flowers 3. Thank you. What do we do with Braylon Allen as a non-Hall owner? You either hold him or you trade him. That's basically it. I mean, he's literally a lottery piece. He's not going to be a starter every week unless you're in a desperate, very deep league. Christopher Farmer sends in a question. Thank you, Christopher. He says in a PPR, Cooper, Wicks, Jerome Ford. Pick 2. The 2 that I would pick in a full PPR format would be Dontavion Wicks number 1, Amari Cooper number 2. I'd bench Ford this week. Onage sends in a question. Says, thank you for answering my question at the beginning of the stream, Andrew. You're chill as fuck, bro. Can't get enough. Thank you very much for the song. Yep. Just to use 225 characters, Scott Hall's toothpick in Mankind's Socko. All right. Thank you for the very generous super chat, Onage. Scott Hall's toothpick or Mankind's Socko. Okay, so as a former consumer of the world wrestling of worlds of federations of worlds of entertainment, honestly, I mean, this is the thing. That Socko was like the best ultimate move because it's the most egregious thing possible, and it just worked every time. So we'll stick with the Sacco. That Sacco probably takes the S tier between the two of them. Scott Hall, again, I don't know if I'm not that young. I mean, I'm not that old to be able to have watched Scott Hall. I've never even actually, I mean, I've seen enough McFoley in my days in like the mid 2000s, but I'm not like 40 years old to where I would have seen Scott Hall. No, nothing against being 40 years old. I'm not even 30 yet, right? So, we're not even in that realm to where I've seen Scott Hall. Thank you for the question. Let's see here. Scary Terry or Wicks? I'm going to go with Wicks this week, Josh. Ando says, in a half PPR flex, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Brian Robinson, or Hunt? I'd probably go with Brian Robinson there. That's the way that I'm leaning towards. Let's see here. Brian D says, 10-man full PPR. Drop Christian Kirk for Xavier Legette? Probably not. I'd like to keep Kirk rest of the season. Hey, thoughts on Tucker Kraft versus Kyle Pitts rest of the season? Pitts should be more valuable. He should be. Just off of pure talent alone, he should be more valuable. But Tucker Kraft, if Musgrave is not going to get a role within this offense going forward, I'd venture to say that he could very easily be a top 14 tight end rest of the season. He could be. Not going to say it's a guarantee, but he could be. Especially with all the injuries to this Packers offense, he becomes more and more of a viable piece within the week and the upcoming weeks. Abe says, would you trade Jamar Chase or Godwin for For Barkley? Yes, I would trade Barkley for... Wait. Would you trade Jamar Chase or Godwin, for Barkley? 1 for 1. If you could trade Godwin away and you can get Barkley in return, I would smash that trade immediately. No questions asked. Even if it required you to send Jamar Chase away to bring in Barkley, I'd also make that same trade. But if you can give away Godwin and get Barkley, I think that's very much so a collusionary trade. But hey, I'd make it. I'm old enough that Jeff Hardy is my GOAT. Look, that's my range, Little Boy Blue. That's my range. Jeff Hardy was an absolute machine. Okay, let's not get it twisted. He was a machine. Now, has he completely, dusted himself in the last couple of years? Absolutely. I don't know what he's doing, but every now and then I'll scroll on Twitter and I will see him completely botch a move or he's getting arrested again. And I'm like, man, the good old days. What a shame. Anyway, moving on, we had a question from Pokemon who says the following. Pokemon says, Garrett Wilson or Scary Terry in the flex, full PPR? I'll probably lean towards playing Scary Terry there this week. Ramblin' Man sends in a question, nothing attached to it. Let me see if I can find the question, though. Ramblin' Man, where art thou? Let's see. Where is the question? Ramblin' Man, is there anything? Ramblin' Man says, I traded Diggs and Hunt for DK and Algier. Okay, very well. Did I mess up? I don't think it's a mess up per se. I don't think Algier really has value outside of being a handcuff. I have Bijan. Okay, cool. You have Bijan. That's fine. Again, if you have enough depth, I'm fine with it. Again, Hunt is eventually going to disappear. So I think getting DK for Diggs, I think, is the most valuable prospect there. Well done. That's cool with me. Moving on to a question that comes in from X Franklin, who says, full PPR. Did you change your picture, X Franklin? We changed it after one day. It says full PPR pick 2. Debo, DK, Marvin Harrison, and Reed. DK and probably Reed are the 1-2 combo this week. Jawad says, trade Bijan for Mason and Najee. Let me think about this. The only reason I would trade Bijan for Mason and Najee is if I had Christian McCaffrey. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. Thank you. John sends in a question. There wasn't anything attached to it. I don't even see where John's question is. John Modi. There it is. It says pick 3. Olave, Garrett Wilson, BTJ, Pickens, Wicks. Okay, so of those available, BTJ, Wicks, and Olave are the 3 that I start there, John. Thank you. Juan Vaca Ramirez says in a full PPR, trade Moss and Ladd McConkey. They're bench warmers for Waddle. If they're bench warmers and they're not going to play a factor in the coming weeks of bye weeks, injuries, etc., and really you're never going to use them, then yes, I'll make the trade. I don't have an issue with that. Constantino says, I love you, my boy, but you look around 34. Yeah, that's fine. Again, anybody who's bald at the age of, well, let's see here. How long have I been bald for? I've been bald for like maybe 5 years, probably. No, more than that. Yeah, no, 5 years. Yeah, you guys know. I've been around the channel for a while. I've been bald for a long time. Of course, I look 34. It is what it is, Let's see here. We had a question from Twisted Folk, who says, full PPR, drop Braylon Allen for Gibson or Tracy and ride him out this week for rest of season upside. Do you think Kamara will be a game time decision? No, Kamara's going to play. I called him this morning. He said he feels good. Of course, he plays on Monday. He'll play. I mean, again, you can always pick up Jamal Williams if you're worried about that. I think that may be the move that you make just in case. If that's what you're kind of feeling. But otherwise, I'm okay making the swap for Gibson, technically. I mean, Tracy might be the better swap because if Singletary's going to miss consecutive weeks with that groin injury, Tracy's probably the better of the two going forward. Let's see here. We had a question from Jim Slim 92 says, last question. I have Nick Chubb on my IR and he's coming back. Who do I drop? Addison, Higgins, Moss, Sermon. So he is technically designated out. So if you can leave him in your IR, leave him there. But once in fact you're in a situation to where he gets activated and he's back, then you have to drop Sermon. Thank you. We move on to X Hassan, who says, Hassan, where's your question, man? Hassan. No question. If you can, type it in the chat. Thank you. Appreciate it. Constantino says, my favorite of all wrestlers was Jake the Snake Roberts and Goldberg. Yeah, look, Constantino, that's how I know you're older than me by a pretty good margin. I never saw Goldberg wrestle once in my life. Are you kidding me? Jeez Louise. Nate says, at least the prime Goldberg. I've seen this new bullshit Goldberg that they've put out like 5 years ago? I saw a couple Twitter clips where he was like snapping Undertaker's neck. I was like, yo, what is going on? Nate says, in a full PPR, start Wicks or Tyreek Hill. Already got read. I'd still start Wicks there. Thank you. Duramodi says, one more. Trade Breece Hall, Cooper, and Jameson for Jefferson and Connor. I'm cool with that. I'll take the Jefferson side of that deal. Thank you. Let's see here. Bald Kings Unite. Yeah, Bald Kings Unite. I wonder if I can make a fantasy team just with bald players. Are there any bald quarterbacks in the league? Bald NFL QB, active QBs. Hold up. Josh Dobbs is the first name that pops up. The guy has alopecia. He doesn't have hair. He can't grow hair. That doesn't even count. Oh my God. That's fucking ridiculous. Are there any bald quarterbacks in the league? I don't even think it exists to even put together like a monster team of bald players. Anyway, moving on. We had Tommy Vu with the question. Thank you, Tommy. He says, hey, Andrew. How you doing tonight? I'm doing great. As you can tell, I'm enjoying myself. I'm laughing it up. We're having a good time. Your boy's back with a question in a full PPR. Choose one for the flex spot. Okay, we have Antonio Gibson, Josh Downs, Pat Freiermuth, Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford. Cool. So of the available options you have at your disposal, the way that I would rank them, under the assumption that Flacco starts on Sunday morning, would be Josh Downs 1, Jerome Ford 2, Antonio, scratch it, rewind the record. I'd go Josh Downs 1, Hunt 2, Jerome Ford 3, Antonio Gibson 4, Pat Freiermuth 5. That's the direction that I'd go with. Thank you. Moving on to Myra Williams. Thank you very much for the super generous super chat. Says, we got an 8-man full PPR with Josh Allen, Bijan, Kyron, Breece Hall, Gibbs, Nico, Jefferson, Neighbors, AJ Brown, Godwin, Fields, Wicks, Leggett. Got offered Mason and Amon-Ra for AJ Brown, Gibbs, and Wicks. Okay, so the only issue that I see with that trade is that I don't see Christian McCaffrey mentioned on your team. So if there's no Christian McCaffrey, I'm not interested in trading for Mason. I'd rather just keep AJ Brown and Gibbs rest of the season. Otherwise, if you did have technically Christian McCaffrey, then I'd say, all right, fine, we can make that deal. That's cool. Thank you. But otherwise, I don't think you need to make the deal because, again, you're stacked across the board. Thank you for the question. Jason S. sends in a question, says, in a 12-team full PPR, Geno, Bijan, Swift, Puka, Nico, Devontae, Bowers, Kirk, Wicks, Downs, Algier, Braylon Allen. We have Trey Tucker, Caleb Williams, Nick Chubb on the IR, and he moves to or hold. Okay, let's see here. So obviously quarterback is a necessity for your team, in my opinion. So if you can try to make an improvement, if you can find a team that has two solid quarterbacks and they're willing to part away from one of them, great. Because even though Geno's matchup this week is solid, and it was last week as well, going forward may not be as pretty. Bijan I'm keeping, Puka I'm keeping, Nico I'm keeping, Devontae Smith I'm keeping, same thing with Bowers. So technically Swift, I think after this week is a good potential trade option. after the Carolina Panthers matchup. You can probably take him and try to get an improvement in a running back position if possible. I think that's my first suggestion after this week. As to the which player exactly, Jason, I guess it's just going to depend. Like if we get another disheveled week out of Josh Jacobs, I mean, like we're full blitzing that, but as of right now, it's just going to depend on the performances. Like if you can somehow flip him with, I don't know, you could take him and Kirk or him and Wicks and then try to go get James Cook. Like that's legitimately what I'm trying to do. But that's kind of the pivoting position. You would take Swift and some other player next week after this week's performances and try to upgrade. Michael Ortiz says, sent Sermon and got Wicks. Did I win? I mean, for this week and then in the next couple weeks here, yeah, I think you're in a good position. Yeah. The Alopecia Assassin, that is an absolutely egregious name, but I love it. I actually love that name. That's really good. Let's see here. Jacob sends in a question, says, thoughts on trading Rachaad White and Sutton for Scary, Terry, and Spears? I'm okay with it. I don't love it, though. I mean, again, I think Rachaad White still has relative value in comparison to Spears, and Sutton will get better as Bo Nix gets better over the course of the season. Or do I could get Addison instead of Terry for the same trade? No, I prefer to get Terry in this trade, but I don't know if I even want the trade in general. Like if you're completely out on Rachaad White, then sure, but I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'd probably hold on to White and Sutton. Says, what Bills wide receiver to start? I mean, primarily it's either Keon Coleman or Curtis Samuel. I like Curtis Samuel because he's filling in for, the Shakir role that will be vacated because Shakir's out. Hassan X says, what's up, Andrew? Check Twitter if you can, please. Yeah, I will. Let's see. What did you send me on Twitter? Also, Mo Money says, trade away Mason and Amari Cooper for AJB and Brian Robinson Jr. Yes, I will take that trade. Give me AJB there any day of the week, Mo Money. Alrighty, let's see. What exactly do we have in regards to Twitter? What do you want me to check? Did you send me did you direct message me, Hassan? Or did you just tweet at me? Because I don't see any active tweets at me at the moment. Unless you sent it 3 days ago or something. I don't know. You gotta let me know. Let's see here. BTJ Ford and Ford for Bijan? Yeah, I'll take the Bijan side of that flow. Pickens and Debo? What is that question? Oh, he's talking to somebody else. Never mind. Okay. Spencer sends in a question. Says PPR, start Sermon or Javonte? In a PPR, I'd probably rather just play Javonte. Thank you. Hey, Andrew, would you stash Zeke Elliott rest of the season? No, I would drop him. And as we're talking about it, somebody else comes and follows me on Twitter. Jay, where's your question, Jay? You can tweet at me as well. Why now I have my phone in my hand and I don't even know what I'm looking for. Hassan, where are you, brother? Where is this message? Is this you? Let's see here. I don't even know who that is. Okay. Human Ziggy says, Dobbs is unhappy with his role in Packers offense. He leads the team with 115 routes, but he wants a trade. Where's Ziggy? Do me a favor. While everyone's sending me stuff on Twitter, do me a favor and shoot me a link as to where you got that source from. Because until you can actualize a source from that, I think that's horseshit. Again, you got to remember, he's still on his rookie contract. Tyler Wilcox says, PPR, Tracy or Sermon this week? I'd probably go Tracy, to be honest. Trade Etienne and Pittman for Mixon and Waddle? Yes, I would do that immediately. Immediately. If you can live this week without it, then so be it. Dobbs is listed as doubtful? No, Dobbs is not playing. He ain't playing this week. But that's because he has personal matters. So, he left the team because something's wrong with his family or something of that exchange. So, no, it's not good, obviously, but, All right, so Hassan, did you send me something? Okay, well, Jay sent me something. He says, Andrew, my wide receivers since Amon-Ra is out, start 2 in the flex. Debo, Flowers, Pickens, Worthy. Debo and Pickens are my suggestion there. Thank you. Purdy or Murray this week? Checkmate. I would play Purdy as long as Kittle's active. If Kittle's not active, I'll just pivot to playing Murray. Little Boy Blue says, what's the link about Dobbs store? Yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting to see it. Flo says, Andrew, am I crazy? I offered AJ Brown for Reed. No. Don't do it. Yes, you are crazy. Don't do that one, man. That is insanity. David Bailey sends in a follow-up, says full PPR, DK Metcalf or Jaden Reed. This week, I'd rather play DK Metcalf. I mean, again, both of them are going to be in my top 8 wide receivers, but DK Metcalf's just playing out of his mind. Now, Jaden Reed is as well, especially with Watson and Listen, if you want to play Jaden Reed because of the potential of the Giants game being a blowout very early, fine. But I think that if the blowout is going to take place, Metcalf's going to have a lot of production to influence that. Jacob sends in a question. Says, one more question. Should I start Madison, Sermon, or Eckler? I'm in a 12-team full PPR with Saquon on bye. At this moment, in a full PPR format, I think I'm going to play either Madison or Eckler. I probably lean in because Sermon's going to need a touchdown. Like, that's just the thing. Sermon needs to score a touchdown, otherwise he won't be as relevant. So between the three, I think I honestly just play Eckler based on how well he's played thus far this season and how well that Commanders offense has been producing. All right, let me see if Hassan said anything in the live chat about what his question was. All right, Hassan has not said anything. He's just off the scene, so be it. A hot dog guy sends in a question. Says, hello, I'm in a half PPR. Would you start ETN, Higgins, or Worthy? If it's my team, legitimately, I'm playing ETN this week. What's Wan'Dale's value now? Value, I mean, again, he's number 4 in targets, number 5 in receptions within the league. He's already got a high value alone. He just doesn't have the name recognition to be able to sell him yet. So you just keep letting him build value. If he's going to continue to help your team win, let it help your team win. But eventually, people will not be able to ignore or deny the receptions and the overall statistics he's been able to accumulate. And of course, at that point, you may be able to trade him after that. Humiziki says, he didn't inform the team he would be absent. Again, Human Ziggy, I want the article because legitimately, if that's it, then I'd like to know. Stevenson demoted. Yep, I'm screwed. Sorry, Daniel. It is what it is, brother. Let's see here. Romeo Dobbs deleted all Packers-related posts on Instagram. I mean, what a fucking guy, man. All right, trade him to the Chiefs. Let's go. Come on, right now. Trade him to the Chiefs. I got a lot of Romeo Dobbs sitting on my bench. Says, you think Chubb is going to put 30 points, PPR points this week? Chubb's not playing this week. I don't know what you're talking about, VMS. He's not even playing this week. Wait, Gibson starting? Yes, Gibson is starting. Duromodi says, trade my Brees for Mixon and Connor. Yes. I'll take that deal. No problem. All right, so T sent in a question. I don't know what T's... Okay, T, I'm assuming... Okay, here we go. Cheeseheads TV with 95K followers on Twitter says, source out of Bill Huber of the NFL. All right, let's see who this Bill Huber guy is real quick. Because if he's... Okay, let's see here. Packers beat writer since 2008. Awesome. All right, so let's see here. This is very relevant then. Thank you. That's crazy. Dude, that means Wicks is even more valuable rest of season. Holy shit. That is... Okay, let's see here. Where is the actual post? Okay, what did it say? What is it? Let's see this. Let me read this. Romeo Dobbs skipped practice on Thursday and wasn't present on Friday because he was upset with his opportunities in the passing game. Okay, now where did Bill say this? I want to see Bill's legitimate quote because I'll take the word of the... I'll have to scrub through his Twitter. I want to take the actual word of a reporter rather than just like the sub-process of somebody else re-reporting something, Pick up Bo Melton in a deep league. I mean, yeah, if you're playing in a 14-team league, Bo Melton might not be a bad idea, especially with Christian Watson injured. Diggs, Wicks, Brian Thomas, pick 2. Diggs and Wicks probably. I mean, honestly, all 3 are great plays. Tim, week when he comes back, says VMS. Oh, do you think he'll put up 30 points in a game when he comes back? No. He won't have a 30-point game. That would be incredibly difficult. I mean, if I look at the Cleveland Browns schedule, just looking at their upcoming schedule as a whole, again, they don't have any cakewalks. Like they've got looking at their schedule right now. Okay, in terms of run-stopping defenses, there's like Miami in week 17, sure, but there's no Carolina Panthers, there's no Dallas Cowboys anymore. There's no more free running games where they can just kill in that regard. Especially with all the offensive line injuries, it's tough. Moving on to a question from K Visionary. Thank you, K. Says 12-man full PPR, St. Brown on bye week. I need 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Who do I start? Metcalf, Olave, Kirk, and Wan'Dale Robinson. In a full PPR, I'd play Metcalf, Olave, and I'd play Wan'Dale. Thank you. Hassan says direct messages on X. Okay, but look, here's the thing. When you say direct messages on X, I don't see a Hassan in my inbox. So like, send me another message right now saying I'm Hassan, and then I'll be like, all right, cool. Now I can answer this question because there's thousands of messages here. So like, I don't know who's who. It's confirmed that Tua is coming back week 8. I don't know if it's confirmed, but there's 200 million reasons for him to come back, and that's the guaranteed money that he would theoretically get if he plays. So I'm gonna assume we're in a situation where I'm gonna assume he would come back week 8 because again, at this point they would have already said he's not playing anymore. The news on Dobbs is true. I mean, I'm hoping it's true because then I'll be able to trust, all this information going forward, and it'll definitely help in terms of being able to evaluate the value of these players going forward in terms of rest of the season. I don't report false narratives. I mean, listen, Human Ziggy, it's not a matter of you reporting the false narrative. It's maybe you hearing it from a person who is not a legit source, right? That would be the thing. It's all about the source in which you get it from, right? Because there have been multiple times over the course of the last couple seasons that I've done this where someone will come in and say, hey, Andrew, I heard this, this, and this, right? Great. But who'd you hear it from? Because if you heard it from Joe Schmo from down the fucking street, it doesn't matter. But if you heard it from a legitimate source that is a beat writer or someone that you can actually trust who has had viable information in the past on a consistent basis, then at that point, we're good to go. It's nothing against you. It's just a matter of who the source that you got it from is. All right, SV. I'm Hassan, my brother. Okay, got it. All right, SV, let's see here. What is your question? All right, so we got a bunch of stuff here. Hey, Andrew, what's your thoughts on this team? Okay. Here's the watch list as well. Full PPR. All right, cool. So let's look at this team, Hassan. So you have Jaden Daniels, Breece Hall, Kareem Hunt, Ayuk, Marvin Harrison, Kraft, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf. Double flex league start. I mean, a pretty good team across the board. You have a good defense for this week. In terms of your bench, Mark Andrews sitting there is fine. You have Joe Burrow as well, just in case. Okay, you have Jackson Smith. You have Cortland Sutton. Okay, so pretty good bench overall. In regards to your upcoming depth, you have Whittington, Parkinson, Demarcus Robinson. Kyle Pitts should be picked up off of the waivers here probably, but again, that's for a different time. As for who you drop, I mean, again, you would probably have to drop multiple players. You'd have to drop Mostert out of your IR and then like Andrews, and then you'd pick up Pitts. But again, that's a matter of whether you want to do that. Outside of this, in terms of your team as a whole, I mean, we just need to improve RB2. That's it. RB2, because Hunt will eventually disappear. You might be in the business of, after this week, maybe even just selling Hunt off, selling Burrow, selling one of your tight ends, selling JSN. Like that it needs to somehow get a... Again, if you can get Najee Harris, now is the time before he has these breakout games. I'm telling you it's coming. Andrew, Rashid Shaheed or Wicks this week? I'll take Wicks. Murray or Geno? I'm probably going to play Murray now. Yeah, I'll probably lean towards Murray. Drop Dobbs for D-Hop? No, I do not want D-Hop in any scenario on my teams. I don't have a single share of D-Hop because I just don't trust it. Nice Guy says Tua is coming back in week 8. It's not confirmed. Schefter just said he'd be surprised if Tua didn't come back, but didn't give a timetable. Got it. Sean Waldron says Lamar, Bijan, Connor, Mason Ford, Collins, DK, Reed, Deontay Ferguson with Fields, Keon Coleman, Algier, likely, mostly on my bench. Do I trade or ride it out? Let's see here. So you have Lamar, Bijan, Connor, Mason. Ford, we don't really need Ford. Mason can theoretically be moved if the Christian McCaffrey manager is interested. Otherwise, you hold. Collins, DK, Reed, Deontay. I mean, look, at this point, how many starters can you have? Are you a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league? Are you a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league? Or are you the basic start 7 of 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, one flex, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver? If you're a regular start 7, then we're probably looking to move Deontay Johnson and try to make an upgrade. You could take Deontay and Ford and try to make some noise. Otherwise, if you're in a multi-flex league, multi-wide receiver, like 3 wide receiver league, you hold because the depth is what is going to give you power going forward here. Also, having Lamar and Fields, not a bad idea to keep them both, but if you can trade Fields, it might not be a bad idea overall because I know Lamar has his injury history, but then again, Fields is a hot commodity based on his last week's performance. And he also said it's full PPR. Got it. Thank you. Yeah, just let me know. Just type it in the chat, Sean. How many players can you start at what position? Like, what does your your league consist of? Thank you. Ramon sends in a question. He says, in a 12-team half PPR, Daniels, JJ, Chase, AJ Brown. Okay, so you've got ridiculous wide receivers. Pitts, Hawkinson, Connor Jacobs. Would you trade both my running backs for Hall, got Ford, and Chubb? Nope, I'd keep what you have, and you're good to go. Don't make any changes. You got a really strong team there. Evan sends in a question. Says, PPR rank Ayuk, Coop, Kirk, / Hill, Wandell, Coop. Okay, so the first one, right? Assuming the first one is a first question prior to the slash, Ayuk, Cooper, and Kirk. I would have it currently this week as in a PPR, full PPR format. It would go Kirk number 1, Coop number 2, Ayuk number 3. If Evan Ingram is active, it would go Coop, Kirk, Ayuk in that order. So just depending on whether or not Ingram is active is whether or not I play Amari Cooper or Christian Kirk there. Then you move on to the second question. Hill, Wandell Robinson, Coop, and Downs. It'd probably go Wandell, Downs, Coop, Hill in that order. Thank you. How do we feel about Tyrone Tracy this week? I'm feeling pretty good about him. I'd say that. Shane Waldron's son, imagine. 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver, and 1 flex. Got it. So yeah, considering you can't have multiple flexes in this league, I'm more inclined to move players. So I would like to keep Collins, DK, and Reed. I'd like to keep Bijan, Connor. Everything else is technically movable. So if you can find a Christian McCaffrey manager who wants to take Mason and Deontay and give you a monster in return, or somebody that just wants Deontay and Ford because they need running back wide receiver tandem depth and they're going to still give you a stud in return, that's the kind of things I'm looking for. Again, if you can get potential value of a Debo or a potential Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, those kind of receivers are the ones I want. Those specifically, those names. That's what I'd go after. Shoot, I'd even be willing to go and try to buy Cooper Kupp or Puka based on how good your team looks. Thank you. All right, again, we've been here for about an hour and 40. Again, I typically try to keep these to an hour 30. So I'm going to answer a couple more questions, then we're out of here. Okay, appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. We'll be back tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you. We have Prohibit with one of the final questions. Says, I have good/bad problem. I have Kittle and McBride. Do I start both of them, one in the flex, instead of one of these options? Yes, I would. If Kittle's active this weekend, which again, we're not 100% certain. Let me check the practice report. Let's see if he got anything in today. If he didn't practice today, then we're probably going to be a little bit worried about it. Let's see. Let's just check here. Let's see. So of the official website, he had a limited practice. Okay, so let's say he's active. If he's active, I start him and I start McBride. If he's not active, then you're going to pivot and you're going to play McBride and also Leggett. Thank you. Frank sends in a question. Says full PPR, pick 2. Let's see here. He spelled stressing wrong. Yeah, I'm stressing. Haha. BTJ, Garrett Wilson, Wicks, Deontay Johnson. Thank you. If I'm picking 2 of these options, I'm going Wicks and Deontay Johnson this week. Thank you. All right, cool. So again, I'll be back Sunday starting at 6 a.m. PST. Tomorrow afternoon starting at 1 p.m. PST. Appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, if you haven't checked out the Hidden Gems video today, players are Trey Sermon, Josh Downs, Antonio Gibson, Tyrone Tracy, David Njoku, and Curtis Samuel. And also at the end of the video, I put together a couple pick'em slips. I can also share it with you guys right now if that just makes it easier. So either way, I mean, I'd say still travel to the video, still leave a like on it because again, that'd be greatly appreciated. But in terms of potential live picks that we're going ahead and putting together this weekend, the ones that I've gone ahead and shared in that video, and I'll once again share right now, are the following. Wicks or BTJ, I'm playing Wicks there. Okay, these are the 2 plays, right? We have $500 down for Eric L. going higher on receptions, Bowers going higher on receptions, Chuba Hubbard going higher on rushing yards. And then we have the 3-piece here of Josh Jacobs going higher on receptions, higher on touchdowns, anytime touchdown. Trevor Lawrence higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns, and a Derrick Henry anytime touchdown. We also have this play Asia Wilson has 19 points. I need one more point, I guess. I'm not even watching the game. Let me see how much time is left in this Las Vegas game. WNBA. I have Asia Wilson going for... Oh my God. Is the game over? I'm going to cry. Where's the game? Oh no. Don't tell me I got actually clipped here. Where's the game? Is it over? It might be over. And I got clipped by half a point. That's going to be brutal. I think it's over. What day is today? Friday? Today. Aces, they already won. All right, I'm leaving. I got to get out of here, guys. I'm pissed. I lost $100. All right. Anyway, thank y'all. I'm cueing the music, and I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon. If not, maybe Sunday morning. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.